What is up, my sunlight samurais, my astronauts, my alpha energy males? In this video, we're going to talk about fasting and testosterone. When you do fasting, whether it be long-term or short-term, can this help to increase your testosterone? How about increasing your testosterone by 2000% by only fasting 24 hours? Right? Wouldn't that be fantastic? You just have to fast 24 hours to get this massive spike in testosterone, growth hormone, become a giga chad. Let's dive in. Right, so this is the article, right? So just as a preface, so Derek from More Buzzword Dates did a video on this a while ago about a Dr. Mindy Pelz, the miracle doctor, that on multiple interviews said that, a 24-hour fast can increase your testosterone by 2,000%. So a 15-hour fast can increase your testosterone by 1,300, 24 hours, 2,000%. Right, so I thought it would be a good idea just to elaborate some more on the research and exactly what the science of found and give you some illustrations and graphs to go with it, right? So here are a few studies. The first one is an acute study, so it means they only tested one fast, right? So the acute effects of fasting on testosterone, study one is a 56-hour fast. And what happened after 56 hours that the serum testosterone fell from 870 to 570. So dropped. LH dropped from about 7 to 5. And then estradiol and FSH remained unaffected. So this means that as testosterone dropped, estrogen remained the same. So you get this unfavorable change in the testosterone to estrogen ratio, which is not good. And then what they found really interesting was when they gave men during this fast small doses of glucose in regular intervals during this fast to maintain their blood glucose, they didn't experience a fall in testosterone or LH. So if you look at the study, you can see the LH dropped, you can see their testosterone dropped, and you can see the testosterone drop correlated with their glucose. And so as glucose dropped, testosterone dropped. So if you can maintain your glucose at a stable level, regardless of what you're doing, it could be exercise, intermittent fasting, whatnot, you might be able to help to prevent the drop in testosterone. At least this is what the study found. So under whatever condition it might be, you're fasting, stressing, overnight, if you wear a continuous glucose monitor, you will more accurately see what's happening to your glucose levels. And if it drops too low, this can be a cause for low testosterone. Whereas so study 2 was a 48-hour fast. 2 days of fasting reduced testosterone from about 400 to 315. So there was a drop after 48 hours. Another study was a 10-day fast. So this one was much longer. And interestingly enough, the drop in testosterone wasn't too atrocious. It was roughly 150 to 300 nanogram per deciliter drop after 10 days of fasting. You would maybe think it would be more. And then they had the men refeed for 4 days after stopping the fast and then retested the testosterone. Also, when they did the refast, the calorie intake was only 1,500. So it wasn't like they mega overconsumed calories, like 3,000, 4,000 calories. They literally only ate 1,500 calories and they got this massive spike in testosterone. So you can see in this graph, this is when they just all started. This is day 6 and day 10. And then after day 10, you can see the refeed here up to day, 14, 18, whatnot. So you can see like a massive jump in testosterone. So this one guy, he was high. It said roughly it was almost 1,050, went down to about 800, and then it spiked to over 1,200. So most of these guys had a slight spike higher than baseline. And but not everyone. So you can see like these guys basically just regained what they had before. This guy didn't even regain what he had before. There's one guy, this outlier, he started just over 400, and during the fast, his testosterone increased to a little bit over 600. So this one guy had an increase in testosterone during the fast, and then at the refeed, it can remain the same, so it didn't even go higher. And so everyone is a little bit different when it comes to fasting, like how healthy are you? Do you have inflammation? Do you have gut inflammation? Do you have an autoimmune condition? So when you eliminate irritating foods, gut irritating foods, gluten, something that you might be sensitive to, inflammation is going down, insulin sensitivity might be improving to an extent, and then you can get these benefits because inflammation is going down. But this is not in everyone the case. So in this one guy, he went from 800 to just below 600 and then spiked up to about 1,600 nanograms per deciliter. So you got this massive spike. But again, he was more of an outlier. Not everyone got this massive spike. So you can't just extrapolate to everyone and say, hey, by doing intermittent fasting or fasting in general, you will get this massive spike in testosterone afterwards. This wasn't found for everyone, right? All right, so what about androgen sensitivity? This study found that short-term fasting increased the DNRH, elicited LH response by 67%, and the corresponding testosterone response by 180%. So that basically confirms the sensitivity aspect, right? So you get this enhanced sensitivity, and then bam, you get this massive spike when you eat again. So it was like more so. And then, but basically you're having this trade-off. So during the fast, you get trade-off between testosterone and signaling sensitivity. Lower T, but you get greater sensitivity. And then when you refeed, you possibly get this testosterone production overshoot. But will this enhance muscle growth? Probably not. There was a study by Morrow et al. Where they did 16-hour fasting and an 8-hour feeding window, and both groups gained the same amount of muscle. The intermittent fasting group wasn't better. There was multiple other intermittent fasting studies with 16-8 or alternative day fasting or 5-2 kind of fasting, and none of the fasting groups ever had more muscle growth than the guys that didn't do the intermittent fasting or the fasting protocol. So what about longer term fasting studies? Like if you do it for a couple of weeks, maybe up to a year. So study one, there was a 2022 study utilizing the 16-8, and they did intermittent fasting for like 4 weeks, and intermittent fasting didn't lower testosterone. So the average stayed around 580. And then here, study two was a 12-month study, so up to here, published in 2021. They also did the 16-8 fasting, and testosterone dropped from 560 basically down to 420. So it's 140 nanogram per deciliter drop. And so it might be the intermittent fasting, or it could simply be because the time-restricted eating group ate fewer calories. When they started, it was 2,760, and it dropped down to 2,580. So it's roughly a little bit less than 200 calorie, deficit, what you can call it, whereas the non-fasting group ate roughly 2,900 calories. And we know that the leaner you get and you're in a deficit, this, based on the energy availability, this can start to lower your testosterone. So you want to have enough energy available to create testosterone. So this is very common with athletes where they train for multiple hours every day, that they can get a drop in testosterone because of this energy availability. They don't necessarily always experience hypogonadal symptoms with a low T. It's like a compensation. They don't have the additional energy available to create testosterone. Right, so here you can see in this graph how their testosterone over 12 months dropped. And I don't know about you, but I don't want to do something that might potentially drop my testosterone, especially if you're going to do it long-term, that is. And what would happen like after 12 months? How about 24 months, 36 months? Would it keep on dropping? How low would it go? Would it ever come back? I don't know, So I would rather not do something that might potentially have that side effect. Now, fasting on free testosterone. So there was two studies, or a study looking at both AM and PM fasting. So whether you fasted in the morning versus you fasted in the evening, it didn't matter. So free testosterone goes down. And one of the speculation is when you fast, your insulin goes down. And insulin is one of the most potent inhibitors, suppressors of sex-binding globulin. So when you fast, insulin goes down, sex-binding globulin goes up. You eat, insulin goes up, sex-binding globulin goes down. So it's always this seesaw effect. What usually happens is that it's not necessarily the seesaw effect because the sex-binding globulin has a longer half-life. So you would be fasting, going up and down with your insulin, but it's what you do most of the time. So if you fast 16 hours and eat only 8 hours, most of the time you're fasting, right? You're in a lower insulin state, and this could eventually lead to, the average on all, insulin being lower on average, sex-binding globulin being higher on average, free testosterone goes down. And this is what I very commonly see with people that do ketogenic diets, carnivore diets, is they end up with high testosterone, 700, 800, 900, 1,000, even over 1,000 nanograms per deciliter in their total testosterone, but their sex-binding globulin is also very high, and they oftentimes have low motivation and drive, have low libido. They can have hypogonadal symptoms despite having very high levels of testosterone. And it's very often correlated to they were doing intermittent fasting, they were doing ketogenic diets or carnivore, and they came off. And also you will see very often people going on carnivore, they might have normal sex-binding globulin around 40 or something like that. And then they go on carnivore and their sex-binding globulin keeps on creeping up. And over the year, they're maybe at 50, 60, 70, and just making it worse. So yeah, fasting doesn't help with free testosterone. If you're healthy, let's say that. Like in unhealthy cases, when you're losing fat and you're improving your insulin sensitivity, lowering inflammation, things might improve. But the longer you do this, if you're already healthy, it might go in a negative direction. All right, so in terms of DHT, so fasting on DHT, is that fasting most likely lowers DHT because, again, of lower insulin, lower NADPH, inadequate vitamin mineral consumption. So let's focus on the two big ones, the insulin. So again, when you fast, your insulin goes down. When you don't eat carbohydrates, your NADPH goes down. So with glycolysis, it's this pathway that breaks down glucose all the way into pyruvate, right? And then in this pathway, you have the pentose phosphate pathway, PPP. And that pathway creates NADPH. And then the NADPH can be used for a variety of different things, such as creating DHT, recycling glutathione, those kind of stuff. And so this study found that a higher carb diet increases DHT more than a lower carb diet. So carbs can play a role in how much DHT you create. There's obviously probably like a limit. So the more is not necessarily better, but you want to have a certain minimum amount of carbohydrates, or at least if you're fasting, during that fasting period, you're not having carbohydrates. Your blood sugar is mostly dropping a little bit. And this can kind of create the same thing. It's like, what do you do for the most part of the day? So for 16 hours of the day or more, you're fasting, you're in a low carb state, you're in a low insulin state. And this could start to lower DHT. And we need DHT for sexual function. And it has a lot of cognitive benefits, anti-anxiety, mood uplifting, and as I mentioned, sexual benefits. So we need DHT to feel good as men. Right, so carb intake, high carb intake, low carb intake, or more like ketogenic diet. All right, then next, fasting. What about growth hormone? Right, so growth hormone might be really important because as we fast, you can see like you can get really big spikes in your growth hormone. And one of the speculations that Derek made was that the woman might have misspoke, and that instead of testosterone, she meant growth hormone. Right, that growth hormone spiked by 2,000%. But even if you look at the study, this was the 5-day study in the growth hormone spike. So let me see, what was that? So a normal day was about 6 nanograms per milliliter, and a fasting day was 13, and the 5th fasting day was 12. So it was like, about a double increase in growth hormone release. Then a second study found that growth hormone increased 5-fold in a 24-hour period, right? So it's nowhere close to this 2,000% increase that the woman was speaking about. So even if you misspoke and she meant growth hormone, not even growth hormone is spiking that ferociously when you do fasting. And also, it's not that you want the growth hormone, it's that you want the IGF-1, and fasting lowers IGF-1. You can't be anabolic in a catabolic state. So you can see IGF-1 here, and this was a 3-day fast. Boom, boom, boom. It's going lower. Every day that you're fasting, IGF-1 is going lower. Free fatty acids is going up. Your glucose is going down. Insulin is going down. IGF-1 is going down. And the IGF-1 is what's responsible for the anabolism, also mood benefits, brain benefits, libido aspects. So yeah, you don't want IGF-1 to be going too low. Obviously, you don't want like excessively high levels of IGF-1. You want a healthy amount of IGF-1. But it was going down. So it's not, these guys weren't reaping the anabolic benefits of growth hormone because IGF-1 was going down. All right, so in terms of muscle growth, right? So when you look at actual studies on intermittent fasting or fasting and intermittent fasting studies never outperform non-fasting or non-intermittent fasting. So regardless of whatever sensitivity you're getting, whatever spikes in growth hormone you're getting, or you're getting this super compensation effect and those kind of stuff that people talk about, this does not translate to better muscle growth, better results long term. So what you generally might see is that intermittent fasting in some studies correlate to better fat loss. Not all studies, but some of them better fat loss, but never better muscle growth, never better anything else. So even if you get that sensitivity, that excessive spikes, it doesn't help. That's the point. All right, guys, so I hope this was helpful. If you want to do intermittent fasting, just be aware of the potential downsides that it could, potentially lower your free testosterone and contribute to hypogonadal symptoms because of the fasting, lowering your insulin, lowering your glucose. So if you're very unhealthy, maybe you're overweight, you're insulin resistant, you have lots of inflammation, intermittent fasting could maybe be a tool that you can use in the short term, but I don't think that's necessary. It's not a necessary step to getting to your goals. You can simply just fix the diet and fix the lifestyle and get to your goals. I've done this many times with clients. You don't need to do, it bothers me so much when people start to focus on the small things, the biohacking, should I be sleeping flat? Should I be sleeping inclined? How many steps should I be taking a day? It's like, are you focusing on the basics? Are you eating the right foods? Are you living the right lifestyle things? Are you getting sunlight? Are you sleeping? And are you being active? The very simple things. Do you have the foundation in check? And very often people will say, no, I don't. So they don't focus on anything else. Get the foundation in check, and then maybe you can try some biohacking stuff. But get the foundation in check. All right, that will have the best effect on your testosterone. All right, I hope this video was helpful, and I will check you in the next one. Cheers, guys.